I am Becca, and I am an environmental studies student with a focus in sustainable agriculture and food systems. So the title of my thesis is Sustainable Suburbia, ? Subtitle, the impacts of residential community associations on the development and implementation of sustainable land use policies. My dream title is, Why Are People Such Assholes? Looking at the environment as an economic game. But I mixed a Mountain Dew with some peppermint schnapps and some triple sec. And then when I ran out of Mountain Dew, I just started mixing water with peppermint schnapps and pickles. So I wanted to talk about like the Food Not Lawns movement and how there are a lot of people trying to grow their own food and become self-subsisting, but because of like different regulations and because of their homeowners associations, they can't do that. So what I did was I did my thesis is essentially on the impacts of residential community associations, which is a blanket term for homeowners associations and similar things, on environmentally themed or sustainable land use policies. So it's about how can a homeowners association impact land use. So the thing that homeowners associations get railed for most often is regulating like what you can do with your space. Like, this is my property, I own it, I paid for it, it belongs to me in every like capital sense of the term, but I'm not allowed to grow vegetables in my front yard. And I was just like, that's really fucked up. And but since I couldn't focus on gardens because there's just not enough real academic evidence there, what I ended up doing was talking about how they've affected 3 different policies that came into play in Sarasota in the last 10 years, and analyzing like how those whole stories played out. My first case study, I guess you could call it, was this fertilizer ordinance that was passed in 2007, and it was essentially being like, hey, nitrogen runoff is really bad for the bay. We live on a bay. We should do something about that. So they were like, let's get rid of, let's not allow people to apply a shit ton of fertilizer during the rainy season, which is also really bad for your plants. Like, if you think that that's good for your plants, you're just completely uneducated about how plant biology works. Like, that's not true at all. And homeowners associations actually were like a really positive player in that. The second case I did was on statewide statutes, which is in 2009, the Florida state legislature passed this law saying that homeowner associations are not allowed to say that you can't use Florida-friendly or native landscaping in your yard, which is really almost unheard of in homeowner association regulation. Like, there is no regulation of it, and it's also, according to many lawyers that I interviewed, unconstitutional, because what that law does is invalidates previous contracts, which you can't do unless it's like a civil rights violation. So then my third case study was on CLUCK. Do you know about CLUCK at all? It was
best acronym ever.
It was a good acronym. Citizens Lobbying for Urban Chicken Keeping. Basically, people were like, hey, we should keep chickens. And that's a big movement. That's happening all over. Everybody started to keep chickens all the time. They're like the trendy pet of the, you know, what is this decade called? I don't even know. They're the trendy pet of this decade. So the day of the final vote, 6 people showed up to talk in opposition of the chicken bill, and they had like 30 people talking for it. So it was clear that like people wanted the bill, but that, or not the bill, it's not a bill. Alcohol always gets on me about like fucking up like what legislation is. I just don't care. It's all the rules. So I don't think. But that was my biggest editing problem. She was like, Becca, you call this a statute when it's like a rule in a homeowners association. I was like, they're all the same thing. There's like a terminology that matters. At the end of my thesis, what I really wanted to say was like, fuck homeowners associations, and fuck all of your stupid rules, and fuck all of your greenwashing bullshit. Like, do something that matters and stop wasting your time. But that's not how academic papers work. So in the end, I make 5 recommendations as to how environmental advocacy groups should work with homeowners associations, because they're clearly not going anywhere. My recommendations were collaborate with homeowners associations, because like in the fertilizer ordinance, you see that like people come out and they're like, man, this is fucked up, and instead of you being like, oh, I'm sorry that's fucked up, regulate it because you're a homeowners association, or being like, this is your problem, they were just like, if they were like, okay, we're gonna make a law now, and you have to deal with it, and it was your idea. So it was kind of a sneaky way for people to just come in and be like, you're concerned about your property values? We're gonna make you do sustainability measures, and that'll help them. And it actually did. Like, that fucking asshole community that got millions of dollars from the county for saving $300,000. I don't even understand how that works, but they did that. It was frame the environment as a collective interest, which basically is like, my thesis advisor wanted me to change the wording of that, but I didn't because I thought it was important to say it this way. Like, prove to people that environmental concerns are important to them, and frame it in a way that they're like, oh, this matters. So like when you're like, hey, you can go from spending $300,000 to $3,000 a year, they're gonna be like, oh, that's important to me, so do that. You know, like, don't spend too much time being like, but the flowers, because unfortunately people are assholes. They don't care about the flowers. So be like, you're gonna save a lot of money, and they'll be like, oh, great idea, I should do this.
Money.
And then education. Oh, I didn't even talk about education in all of my case study things, but I already talked too much.
More
so
booze, more booze, more booze.
Yeah,
Get Demi really drunk and have one
I'm
last
already
word.
really drunk. Leave me alone. Probably. I don't even where was I? The environment is a collective interest. That's important. I wish people were smart enough that you could just be like, the environment is a collective interest because duh. Because like, maybe this is just me, but like, I don't understand how you can go outside and be like, look at this functioning biosphere. It is not important to me. But evidently people are assholes, and that's how people feel about things. And I'm just like, I hate everybody. Really, that's kind of the conclusion I make in my thesis. The main one is I hate everybody. But except for like these people. I like everybody out here. The environment is a collective interest. God, I can't even remember my conclusions now. There's 3 more of them. I have no idea what they are, because that's how unimportant they are. Give me a second. I will know this. I know this. I wrote it. It's the culmination of my college career. It's got to be something. Collaboration, frame the environment as a collective interest. Educational initiatives are important. So like, oh, okay, now I remember them all. Okay, they came back to me. But educational initiatives are important because you have people, like, you need to have people out educating all the time, and not just like once, but all the time. Just because homeowners associations are a rotating body of directors, like that will rotate through the community, and also because people are mobile, they'll move out of communities. It's important to continue education and continue informing people of why the environment is important to them and why their land use dictates their property values, which is really what you have to link it all back to, which sucks. Like, again, I'm gonna say it again, this is like my main conclusion. People are assholes. All they care about is their property values. But the 4th conclusion was you should elicit voluntary participation. So like, getting a homeowners association on board by being like, whoa, your property values are going down? Oh my god, man, that really sucks. Look at all these algal blooms in your yard. Maybe you should do some fertilizer maintenance or something. That worked really well. Being like, hey y'all, we want chickens. They were like, fuck no. It's like, you know, there's a. So make it seem like it's their idea is kind of like, I call it like elicit voluntary participation. But really what I mean is like, make it seem like it's their idea. Dealing with homeowners associations is exactly like being a nanny, and I can say that because my thesis is on homeowners associations, and my living comes from being a nanny, and they're the exact same thing. Another conclusion that I had was, yeah, just make sure they don't kill themselves and teach them how to be good people without making it seem like you're draconian. I think that sums up both my thesis and my livelihood right now. But also, have non-punitive enforcement measures. And this is actually the part of my thesis that I'm most conflicted about, because in my heart, how I feel is like, if you are the kind of sick person that puts profit margins above the health of the endangered species of the manatee, and I love manatees more than like anything else. I'm like kind of obsessed with manatees. They're saving the whole world. So 10 manatees a day are dying in the bay. Does anyone care about that? Not really. But if you say to them, hey, you're gonna save some money here, or hey, like if you're the kind of person that wants to kill manatees, I don't care about you. You no longer fit into my sphere of like people who I'm concerned about. But there's a lot of people out there, and that excludes a lot of people, and I guess I will make a lot less friends that way. But the end of my thesis is basically like, have non-punitive enforcement measures. So what worked